Hey, it's Larry Dillon from Insight PRM and the Wendover Corporation. I'm here with Jeff, the producer. Jeff, how are you?
Great. How are you?
So, Jeff, we launched this podcast, about a month, 5-6 weeks ago?
I don't even know if it's been maybe around 2 months.
And how many views have we had?
I'd say all of it probably around 120,000.
120,000. So, it's been a little surprising.
Yeah, I'd say.
But no, it's been great. Jeff and I, the whole team went down to the MSP Expo down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And Jeff went there. We did some interviews, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of the show, Jeff?
I loved it. It's my first trade show, first time in Fort Lauderdale. It was a good experience.
And I got to say, Jeff, the producer, crushed it. I was standing there and constantly people coming up, and then Jeff's like, I'd stop and I want to take a little breather, and Jeff's like, I got 2 guys that I want to bring to you. Stay right here. And it was nonstop, right?
I was waiting for if I didn't know a question, I would, or if they were kind of wrapping up and I needed to give them to you, and you were talking to somebody else, I was like, well, I can't interrupt him, but I got to keep them for a little bit longer. And then as soon as you were done, in my ear, I hear, "I was great meeting you." Then I'm like, Larry, come meet this guy.
Yeah, it was amazing. My brother Bill was down, and Shauna, and who else? Oh, Roman, our lead programmer.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. We met, I don't know, 200-300 people in total. It was great. It was a great show. And it was so cool meeting people and talking to them. And the stunning thing was, and let me ask you, did you talk to anyone that was like, no, we're good. We use this. It costs a little bit of money and we get instant results?
Nobody.
That's the thing to me. It's nobody's like, hey, we're doing this, and this, and it's really working well. I mean, there are some people that are like, we do 100% referrals, which is fine. But let's say you're a company doing $1 million a year, and 100% of your business is just from referrals, and you kind of got to $1 million, and you're slowly growing, versus another company does $1 million a year in referrals, and then $9 million from an outbound program, which means only 10% is referrals. So be careful if you brag about 100% of your business is referrals, because the companies that really grow, sort of that's great. That's the baseline. How can we double that, triple that? So something to think about. But it was really interesting, especially after COVID, and now people are getting back to trade shows and meeting people face to face, talking to people about lead generation, prospecting, and outbound. I met remember that gentleman that came up and built his business around the Wendover leads back in the day, from the 80s until 2000. I think he sold his company in 2015. Remember him?
Yeah, he came up towards the end of the
day
almost, right?
Great guy. And but there's always that, and the guy in the booth next door used Wendover leads, and it's always kind of cool to meet people. But that guy, remember, he sat down, he's like, this guy, it's his lead, not to brag, but it's just, they did the work. He figured out a process, because there's a lot of people that, they just can't work leads, not just our leads. They just can't work leads, period. But so that was really good. And my takeaway from the show is that, people want to grow their business, but I'm shocked nobody you would think somebody would be like, oh, we're SEO or this or that, or this is really nobody.
Yeah, nobody said that.
Nobody. And I know that just empirically, or just from my, talking to people over the years, the only thing that crushes is when somebody's put together a killer inside sales team.
You know what they did say, though? They said, after we watched Scalable Insights podcast, our sales quadrupled.
That's a fib. No. But our customers that are the most profitable, never, the ones that always, here's the funny thing, the ones that have really good inside sales, because stop giving your leads to outside sales reps. Our research indicates that if you give leads to your sales reps, on average, half of those leads they won't call, but they're never going to tell you that they're not calling them. They just won't call them. So you got to figure something out, because that means your web leads, marketing leads, SEO lead, any type of lead that comes in. We've done these surveys where we reached out to companies as a mystery shopper, where we said, hey, I'm the manager of a 100-person law firm, and I need IT services or phone services. We've done it for all different mover services, all these different services. And so we'll call the surveys were anywhere from 100 companies to 500, where we posed as a mystery shopper that had a budget for what you sell. You might want to write this down. Half every single time never call. And of the ones that do call, the half that do call, the person goes to an individual phone line, so we know what it's about. And then our receptionist would say, oh, I know John's interested in your services. Listen, call back tomorrow at 3:00. He'll be there. And only half of those people call back. And then everybody gives up after 4 attempts. They give up, even though we called and said, I have a budget for what you sell. I want to talk to you. And every time they call, they're met with a receptionist that's very welcoming. Like, oh, I know he's expecting your call. So now, listen, my reps and my killer customers get excited after the 10th time, they're even when they get a voicemail. They get excited. Like, I really don't get it. I get fired up for the ones that aren't answering their phone, because I know I'm going to be the only one following up.
Yeah.
And it's just the killer attitude versus, well, I called. It's not a good lead, because if there was a good lead, they'd call me back. Stop it.
Every time at the trade show, every time I told somebody and said it takes an average of 10 attempts to get somebody on the phone, they all were like, oh, yeah, you have no idea. Like, they were all saying that it takes forever.
Policies. Some of these big companies have policies of 3 strikes and you're out. Like, if they get a lead, if they get a lead, they'll attempt to call them 3 times and then give up. The stats are, it takes an average of 10. So that means sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20 attempts. And you never know if that lead could be a $100,000, multi-$100,000, $1 million, multi-million-dollar deal. Our clients have closed from our leads, from cold leads, not cold leads, but from the relocation leads that we've given them, have closed deals in the millions. It's just astounding to me. So the other interesting thing, I don't know if I shared this with you. So we met, the people in the booth next to us and across from us and some other folks. I went to some of the seminars, so I visited some people in their booth. And I'm like, so how many leads are you going to get from the show? Now, mind you, they're spending $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 to be at the show. Mm-hmm. So I asked probably 8 people. There were some big companies there. And I'm like, how many leads are you going to get from the show? Like, people you talk to that are interested, want more information. They're like, oh, probably going to get 200, 300, 400. Mm-hmm. Like, let me ask you a question. What's going to happen once you go back? Is your sales team going to follow up? 100% said no. They just were like, well, they're not going to follow up. 100% said no. Paid the money, went to the trade show. So now, by the way, if you go to trade shows, we're offering a service where we'll nurture those leads over the next year or two for you for a pretty reasonable price. So if you're interested in that. But I was blown away.
Yeah.
Unabashedly, like, no hesitation. Yeah, our reps aren't going to follow up. What are you doing? Like, I don't know. Yeah, so anyway, listen, this is going to be the shortest podcast, Jeff. And the reason that I want it to be short, because, listen, I talked to 100 business owners, managers, folks, because the people we spoke to are in charge of sales, right? If they were just engineers, then we had nothing to talk about. But the people that we did talk to, they had a role in growing their business. And I wanted to do this really short podcast for a reason. That you need to think about, or how can I put this? The most successful companies that I've worked with, and we've worked with thousands and thousands over the years, and we've seen them skyrocket, small companies to really big companies to become public companies, and they all have this DNA. And part of that DNA is you need to prospect. You need to have an outreach program. You need to reach out to people that you could do business with on a consistent basis. And unless you have a killer inside sales team, you're going to have to be patient. Because a great rep can take 10 of our leads and turn it into, 2 or 3 deals. Yeah. Where the average rep is just going to not even, they won't call, but then they'll tell you, oh, I called. None of them are, they're not good prospects. And I'm like, hey, jackass, I got 2 of your competitors that are calling me up, thanking me because they, closed this, and this. But, right. So at a bare minimum, you need to have, and you need to stop thinking about, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never met anybody that's like, hey, we do X, Y, and Z. It costs a little bit of money. And in the first month, we're closing deals. It's B2B, especially if you're in IT services. You got to be nurturing those leads 9 months, 18 months, 2 years. Because I can tell you stories about the rock stars that I've worked with, like Gary Pico when he had Dynamic Digital, and other companies that took the long approach and were patient and just kept on the track. And then, they'll call up and say, hey, this deal took 18 months. There's no way we could have closed it any sooner. Yeah. But if you have to put a budget together for some sort of outreach program, whether you use us or not, I don't care, but do something consistently where you're talking on the phone to a group of prospects all the time. And I mean, we do this for our company, and, we're doing, we have folks that'll make calls and do the voicemail drop for our reps. It's the most successful thing that we've ever done. And we have killer in our guys every month. Somebody will, tell me about a deal that they've been working on for years. Or they'll bring me in on an onboarding and they'll say, Danielle has been following up with me religiously for 2 years. And we figured she's got to be doing something right. So that's why we're coming on board. But, and especially if you got to be realistic. If you don't have killer sales reps that will, if you generate a lead. So think about this way. If you generate, first off, if your sales reps are telling you, oh, the web leads are terrible, these leads suck, or the trade show leads are terrible, guess what? They're not following up on the leads. They just aren't.
Right.
They just aren't. So you got to fix that. Now, your second option is is put together an outreach program where you're constantly talking to the same people 4 times a year. And so when it comes time for them that they're ready to buy whatever it is that you sell, they will call you, they will fill out a web form. And if you're not meticulous, like we check every single time a web lead comes in, we check it against our databases. So, for example, a lead came in last week, and we have tens of thousands of prospects. And so we've segmented. We have folks in the Philippines that will make calls and do the voicemail drop. That's regardless. But so this particular web lead came in. So the first thing our admin does is go and they check on our sales reps database. When's the last time they touched, or are they in the database? Which normally they are, like 90% of the time, because we've been doing this for so long. We've been making, hundreds of thousands of dials for 30 years. So, so we checked this particular lead. We checked, and so our inside. So we have tens of thousands of prospects. So our inside sales reps take, maybe 2,000, 3,000 prospects that they're prospecting. And then there's like another in their territory, maybe another 7,000 that get followed up with by our team in the Philippines. So we looked at it and we're like, okay, when's the last time that this rep reached out to this person? And it was 3 years ago, which they were in the B category. So that's fine. And then we were like, okay, when did the Philippines reach out to them? And that was literally 6 days before. So, so obviously that was a credit to our lead nurturing program. So you've got to be able to, if you don't meticulously track every single opportunity that comes in, you're not going to understand where those opportunities are coming from. So, and especially if you don't have a killer sales team that will devour leads and get fired up after 5 attempts and they still haven't called back and get more excited. It's like a baseball player, right? He's batting 350 or something, and they've struck out 5 times. You know they're due. Mm-hmm. So they versus most sales reps, it's the opposite. But the killers, that's the way they are. So, if you really want to grow your business, just develop that universe of prospects that you're going to call to forever, unless they die or go out of business. And if you keep your name in front of them just by, hey, this is Larry, I sell moving services, or I sell IT services or phone services, and just keep touching them, you'll start to see if you have a crappy sales team in terms of working leads,
right?
You'll see results in probably 6 months, 9 months, a year, and then it just will continue to multiply from there. But I can't emphasize enough that whether you use us or build your own inside sales team, you need to do this, because I'm telling you, the most successful people that I've worked with have this process in place, that there's a team of people that just devour opportunities. And then obviously you can put the dead leads from your sales team into that program, but you have to have an outreach program if you really want to try to grow in any significant way. So, which is prospecting. You have to prospect. If you're B2B, if you don't have a prospecting and outbound prospecting program in place, you are missing the boat. And the reason that companies don't or fail at this is because they have too short-term a perspective. Now, if you have killer sales reps that will eat up leads, you'll get results faster. But if you don't, you're going to have to wait till they call you. But so you're going to have to spend the money over a long period of time, and don't do anything unless you're going to do it for like a year or 2 years. Just don't do it. Don't bother. Don't bother, because I'll tell you what will happen, especially if you have not so good sales reps. It's crazy. We'll have recordings, so sometimes we don't do appointment setting, but we do talk to people on behalf of our clients, and they'll say, yes, I am interested in divorcing my MSP, or I am interested in moving services, or this or that, where we literally have the recording where they're telling us this, their intent is genuine, and then the prospect doesn't show up for the meeting. And then we're on the phone with our customer. I'm like, why are you talking to me? Like, that person was definitely interested. I mean, okay, every now and then people just are like, I just want to get you off the phone. That happens every now and then. But you never know. By the way, newsflash, they're the buyer. They can blow off 100 meetings if they want to. That doesn't mean that they're not interested. I mean, I've set up meetings for myself, drove all the way down to Washington, D.C., called the day before and said, listen, I'm driving from Philly 3.5 hours. I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning for the meeting. You going to be there, John? Yes, I am. Drove all the way down. John's not there. Does that mean he's an unqualified? No. I'm going to, continue to go after. We wound up closing him.
Yeah.
What can I tell you? Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. If they agreed, the best lead there is somebody that agreed to an appointment. And newsflash, customers are allowed to blow off as many appointments as they want. They're prospects. Stop it. So these are the kinds of things that are indications of the wrong mentality of management and the wrong mentality of salespeople. And that doesn't mean that 100% of appointments set are good prospects. It doesn't. But I can tell you 100% assurity that there are prospects that are going to buy what you sell, that agree to an appointment, and then just blow you off. Get back on the phone and say, I'm sorry we missed each other. Yeah. I do it. I'm supposed to buy stuff, but like if I've got stuff I'm supposed to do or a good prospect calls, I'm going to blow off that meeting. I got other stuff, that maybe is more pressing or it just happens. I'm the buyer. Sorry. I don't know. But the whole purpose of this podcast is that the most successful B2B companies, and it doesn't matter if they're in the moving business, the furniture business, IT services, network services, phone systems, voice and data, security, anything B2B, commercial real estate, the most successful ones that, by the way, when there's a recession, they thrive, they kill it because their competitors, their weaker competitors, take the foot off the gas pedal. And every single time there's a recession, we know we're going to call us from our rock stars and be like, and they'll say things like, you won't believe what just happened. My idiot competitor, to save money, the first thing that he did was fire his killer sales rep. I just hired him. Yeah. Every single time there's a recession, we get stories like this. And during COVID, a lot of the clients, were struggling. But then the ones that put the pedal down killed it. I talked to a gentleman in Pittsburgh, B2B, sort of complicated sales process. And he's like, there's nothing to do. So I just cold call like crazy. And he's telling me I got this big deal and that big deal because this happened and that happened. He was finding all kinds of deals, like big deals, not just sort of small deals. So you really want to think about having a consistent, long-term prospecting program long term. Like if you hired even if you were lucky enough to hire an inside salesperson that was good and didn't need to be managed, you would probably, if the person was making the calls, you'd probably stick it out for a year. Mm-hmm. Just think about that. So, and stop wasting your money. If you're looking for like an instantaneous return, I've been doing this for a long time. I've never met anybody that's like, oh, we did X, Y, and Z and got instant return. So anyway, that's my short podcast. Jeff, anyway, we'd love to put you on our mailing list. We've got all kinds of giveaways. We're giving away some free leads, some free consulting, all kinds of goodies. You can get access to content that's not available through our podcast. Jeff, how can they reach out to you to get onto our mailing list, our email mailing list? Email mailing list.
Well, you can email me at jeffn@scalingyourbusinesspodcast.com. So just jeffn@scalingyourbusinesspodcast.com.
Awesome. So do that. We'd love to hear from you. Please comment on the podcast. We'd love your comments, especially the bad ones.
Oh, yeah.
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 Especially the bad ones. Give me some.
We want more bad ones. That's
yeah.
what we want.
Give me some negativity. The Wedding Crashers. Stop being so goddamn negative. I'm tired of the negativity. I got to get that line right. But listen, we're here for you. We want to give you the content that's going to help you sort of get to the next level. This is my passion. I love talking to, it was just a thrill to meet so many people and talk to them about what their goals were and how they were, what they wanted to do to try to grow their business. So that's what we're here for, just to help you figure out next steps. So thank you very much.